that's a little bit of a trick of my daily life, that I try to figure out how can I simplify a complex problem, bring it to the real stuff, separate the important ones from the less important ones, and then focus on the importance. And for my PhD, I was for a while at Stanford. This was a great time. I could work together with the most renowned physicists on superconductivity. What I did is, I didn't prepare a PowerPoint presentation. I put posters in the boardroom showing the market, the customers, competition and whatnot. And that surprised him. So a meeting which was supposed to go for an hour, eventually only 10 minutes, lasted for 2. Right. So I really got him. This was the time I was so busy. Then I wanted to marry at that time, and I had literally no chance to really take some time off. So we married at 7:30 in the morning. And so when you are a normal board member of Siemens, for example, or any other DAX company, you're developing a network amongst your peers and to a certain level in politics. So you would maybe not reach minister level or chancellor level. But when you're CEO, then obviously you're networking then with other CEOs, and you're stepping up into that political level. Every car which passes by was eventually touched by Siemens technology in the design phase, in the production phase. Roughly 50% of all electrons which are reaching people were touched by Siemens technology. When you somewhere on this globe get a scan, MR scan, CT scan, the likelihood that you're ending up at a Siemens scanner is something between 40 and 50%. I was one of those who was going to the classrooms whenever the professor was good. The other was I skipped.
Dear students, welcome to the CEO Leadership Series. My name is Cheng-Wang Li, and it is an enormous pleasure for me to present to you the CEO of Siemens. Siemens is one of the world's leading technology companies. It is also, without a doubt, one of Germany's most well-known and well-respected companies around the world. In this current fiscal year, Siemens has been able to earn revenues of almost 80 billion euros with more than
311,000 employees worldwide. Dr. Roland Busch has been CEO of Siemens since 2021. He is undoubtedly one of the most renowned and influential top managers and top executives in Europe. Within the 3 years of his tenure as CEO, he has been able to increase Siemens revenue from a bit over 60 billion euros to now almost 80 billion euros. That is by close to 30%. Dr. Busch initially studied physics at the University of Nuremberg and the University in Grenoble in France. He graduated with a doctoral degree, a PhD degree, on the topic of dissipative processes in the mixed state of high temperature superconductors, and then joined Siemens as project lead, project head of corporate R&D, research and development. He quickly rose through the ranks, worked in different places and in different areas, including automotive systems, infotainment, and mass transit, before becoming head of corporate strategy. After 3 years, he joined the management board of the entire Siemens Corporation, the powerful Vorstand, and within that board, he was, among others, the COO, CTO, CHRO, CSO as a Chief Sustainability Officer, and also Deputy CEO, before becoming CEO of the entire Siemens Corporation almost 3 years ago. It is an enormous pleasure for me to welcome Dr. Busch here to our campus, not only because of his immense renown, but also because of my own personal gratitude, since and that's true, I own a Siemens washing machine some while ago. And
oh dear.
Since I bought that thing, people have been complimenting me on my wrinkle-free clothes and shirts and so on. So I'm very happy about that. Thus, please help me and very warmly welcome Dr. Roland Busch. Dr. Busch, very welcome to our campus. It's a great Great pleasure for us to have you here. We would like to get to know you a little bit as a person, first and foremost, before your leadership experience. So can you perhaps tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe starting with your childhood, youth, and school years?
Well, let's get one thing straight first. We do not do washing machines anymore. We do not do mobile phones anymore. No network components, but we come to that a little bit later. It's a constant transformation, but no washing machines. And if there's one which says Siemens, don't send me an email to repair it, because it's not like I got hundreds of emails. So it's not our business anymore. Well, I mean, I grew up in Erlangen. This is very interesting. Erlangen is a town, this is a small city, 100,000 inhabitants. And it's Siemens and university. So you are either of a person who says, of course, I'm going to work for Siemens, or you're from the other camp who says, it's too much, I don't want to work there. I was of the later one, I have to say. Okay. And finally, I'm a lifetimer of Siemens, so somehow they got me. I mean, I grew up there, I studied physics, as you said. It was actually during my last school years, I didn't know whether I should study physics or chemistry. Eventually mathematics, but I thought chemistry and physics. So I took in my finals both courses, and it took me a quarter to find out it's physics, because that's the truth. So that's the real stuff. I loved it. It's more theoretical physics what I did. So I never wanted to touch to make experiments. I found it fascinating that you can put the world in numbers. And there's one thing which I learned during my studies, which very often I got a question, how much does my physics studies help me in my life? When you do physics, theoretical physics, what you do is you try to simplify the world in order to be able to put it into formulas. So a pendulum is very hard to calculate, but if it's a infinite thin line with a point weight, then you can calculate it precisely in a formula. So, and that's a little bit of a trick of my daily life, that I try to figure out how can I simplify a complex problem, bring it to the real stuff, separate the important ones from the less important ones, and then focus on the importance. That's a kind of pattern. It helps a lot, I tell you. I think even in exams, think about it. So I went to Grenoble because I didn't have French in school, Latin and English, and I thought it's nice to have another language. So I decided to go to Grenoble 1 year before I started there to listen to physics classes. I had no clue about French. The recommendation letter had been written by a friend of mine. It worked somehow. And for my PhD, I was for a while at Stanford. This was a great time. I could work together with the most renowned physicists on superconductivity. It was a great time, great place to be. And then I got an offer from Oxford Technologies to work on semiconductor magnets. These are magnets which go into Siemens MR technologies, or MRTs. And then came an offer along from Siemens, which was it was a department which was bridging research and the businesses. So what we did is studies, and so these were technological, economical studies on, for example, offshore wind turbines. Right. At that time, the biggest turbine was 1 megawatt. Right. And we tried to figure out how big does a turbine have to get in order to make it commercially viable. It was about transport of energy via AC, DC, or superconductors over long distance. What is the break even? How long does a distance have to be, and how high the power density in order to make a break even from DC to semiconductors, and so on. And then they did for 1.5 years, and then my boss said, you have to go to the business. This is, I don't know why, but he said business is good. And then I ended up in automotive, and from there, I took the way which you correctly described.
All right. And you, as I mentioned, quickly rose through the ranks. I think you basically advance your career every 1 to 3 years on average. So can you perhaps correct? Can you perhaps tell us a little bit of the, if you will, highlights of kind of your process up until you became CEO? What were the milestones?
I mean, number one is I started in, okay, let me go through a couple of highlights, but I think are important. Number one is when I started off in automotive, in the strategy department of the automotive division at that time. I was hired by one of the board members of this automotive division. And just when I started, he was kicked out.
Okay.
So I was left with a direct reporting line to the CEO of this division. And it turned out that this CEO was a person who has no clue and no interest to work with corporate. So, I mean, he really hated it. He wanted to go to customers and work with his people. So I was sitting there, heading of strategy, and my boss was a person who didn't care because he knew everything, what he wanted to do. He was deeply into technology and customers. So then this took on for, I was basically not recognized, sitting there. And I talked to my girlfriend at that time, okay, I have to quit, I have to go somewhere else. And she said, don't give up so easy. Do something where he cannot get around. He has to acknowledge you. And I said, how cool is that? I'm there for 1 year in this automotive thing. He does automotive for the last 10 years. What am I? What can I tell him which interests him in order to say, let's move on? But I took the challenge. So I was working very, very hard, trying to understand how the business works, the customer, the market, and so on and so on. And I had an idea that my strong belief was that after developing this business for the last 10 years organically, they had to make a change in organization from components into systems, so to speak, and eventually doing a larger acquisition. So this was my idea. Next point was, how can I present it? Because I knew when he's not interested in something and you have maybe you've got a meeting for an hour, sometimes you're kicked out after 10 minutes.
Right.
So what I did is I didn't prepare a PowerPoint presentation. I put posters in the boardroom showing the market, the customers, competition and whatnot. And that surprised him. So a meeting which was supposed to go for an hour, eventually only 10 minutes, lasted for 2.
Right.
So I really got him in moving from one poster to the other, showing it was a different setup. So I was very interested. And actually, we did the reorganization. We acquired video in that time. So I was recognized. From that day onward, I got more and more work. He made me head of quality, head of consulting, put it more and more load on me. And finally, I was then given another chance, was after I did the acquisition, running the Infotainment Solution business, which was a turnaround. Basically, completely screwed up business, 1 billion revenue, 200 million losses, a couple of navigation systems not consolidated. So it was a consolidation in technology, consolidation in manufacturing sites, and critical projects. This was 3 years. Also, retro perspective, the hardest years of my life. I worked day and night, weekends. I had to motivate, for example, for a BMW project, 500 people to work really for 3 years consecutively on this project. And I learned a lot. I don't want to miss it. This was the time I was so busy. Then I wanted to marry at that time, and I had literally no chance to really take some time off. So we married at 7:30 in the morning. And yes, this was very interesting. We went to the Standesamt, the place, and they asked me, and I said I want to marry. Yeah, when? Next week. Yeah. Thursday? Yeah, Thursday would work fine. When do you open? Yeah, at 7:30. 7:30 is a good one. And then, okay, do you want to have a speech or something? If we don't have to, make it short, it's even better. So we went there at 7:30, and 8 o'clock we left, and I was back in the office. So this was
All right.
Here comes my point. No, this is not a recommendation. Not at all. But if it has to be, it has to be.
All right.
So, but there's one lesson learned out of that. I do believe that carriers are made in a way that you have a boss or a boss of a boss who believes in you, who knows you to some extent, believes in you, and it gives you eventually in the early stage of a career a double stretch. So I was never meant to be in this position running a 1 billion business, a turnaround, with my knowledge which I acquired at that point in time. I never did an R&D run an RBT department. I was never running manufacturing. I was never running sales. But my boss said, I trust you can do it. And he was right. I didn't fail. The likelihood was high, so it was a risk placement. But this double stretch brought me, really boosted me to the next level. There was another one thereafter, and so this is how careers are made.
All right. How were you able to understand the business side of things? I mean, coming from a physics background at first, I mean, was it self-study? Was it having good mentors and colleagues, or was it?
Being curious. I mean, you have to start learning. And this is what I love. I'm very curious. So I was diving in all dimensions, customers, technology, as deep as you can get. I was discussing with my software architects down to the bits and bytes, how the system works. So it was really, I tried really to very, very deeply understand what it's all about. The point is that you cannot do that in every aspect. You have to come back. You know this team model when you manage? Did you teach you guys?
Not yet.
Not yet. So there's a point, I mean, if you manage something, you have to look across, obviously, because I mean, you run a global business, so this is the horizontal. But when necessary, you should be able to dive deep, which is the T. And this, I do believe this is very important. You have to dive deep if it's of essence for your business, in terms of either you have a project which is screwed up or you need to understand the technology in order to make right decisions. You really have to have a deep understanding. The only point is you have to come back. If you sit there and go again and again and again, then 24 hours would not be enough to run a business. So, but if necessary, you have to. So this was my way of doing that, and sometimes when I had no clue what the people were talking about, I kept on going. Right. In Siemens today, we call it growth mindset, okay, which tells you basically whenever you really want to achieve something, you learn from your mistakes and you keep on going and investing in it, you can reach everything. So that's something what I believe is very typical for me.
All right, very good advice. After your time restructuring that business, what came after?
Then, for me, actually 1 year too early, because the business was okay. We acquired new projects, large projects, and I would have never left myself out of this business at this point in time. Normally, you would stabilize it for another year and then move on. But somebody gave me a call and said, do you want to run the whole automotive business, not only your navigation system, out of Asia, from China? And I said, yes. So, all right. Actually, they asked me whether I would run it from Singapore. Okay. And then I thought, how crazy is that? Why would you run an automotive business out of Singapore, where China was about to be the largest automotive market? It was written on the wall. So I said, and this was not understood by the people in the headquarters. Okay. Because Singapore, do you know Singapore? This is really the high quality life there. I mean, it's really very comfortable, everything nice. But it's not an automotive city, no? I mean, Shanghai was the place. So I said, I want to go to Shanghai. And this was my next turnaround, so to speak. The business was not well managed. I was running Asia and China in a double role after I kicked out my head of China because it didn't do good. And then we basically, this was a time when all the business, the supply business for automotive in China was run in a copy-paste mode. So you take an engine management system of BMW, just take the very same one, nail it down in China and sell it, and this was not good enough. So we localized 14 different product lines in China with local teams very successfully. But this was hard work, right, because headquarters was always standing in the way. They said, why would you? But just take my BMW system and sell it in China.
Okay.
Didn't work.
Okay. A lot of our young students here, I think they would also go down the route of being an expatriate someday. They're very curious, internationally kind of active. So can you maybe tell us a little bit about your expatriate life? I mean, was it difficult adjusting? Was it fun?
No, I loved it. I mean, at that point in time, point number one was I was going there with my wife. She was also working there. And I said, we jump with both legs. So we try to forget whatever we know because it's a completely different world, and just try to embed yourself and go with the flow. There were others, delegates, who were complaining that they didn't find Nutella or any kind of brand which they're used to. This was their biggest problem. It was not mine. I mean, I loved the Chinese food, the mentality, but it was different. So you really this is one thing what you have to do is. The other one was, whereas my colleagues were choosing compounds to live where Germans live, there's a German compound, a French compound, I have chosen an Asian one. So we were, I think, the only international one. All the others were from Hong Kong, China, Korea and the like. This was, I think, the best decision. So we still have friends there, and it was also, and you have to also adapt, embed yourself in the culture because working there is also different. So it was a great experience.
All right, and you learned 1,500 different Chinese signs,
yeah,
right? So
and still I was illiterate. So you cannot read a newspaper with, I think, 2,000 characters you need. I ended up at 1,500, which I found great, but still it's not. I mean, somehow you have an idea what's written, but not too much.
All right. And then you came back to Germany?
Yeah, this was very interesting. Then the business was sold at that time. The automotive business was sold to Continental. So whatever you see today, most of that except the braking and the rubber business is Siemens VDO at that time. We sold it for a good price. And then, cut a long story short, I either should go to Continental, move on with my business, or go back to Siemens. It didn't work out. So Siemens was asking me, since I was making turnarounds, they figured out that some of their streetcars are falling apart. So they built a platform very successfully, sold it 4, 5, 6 times all around the world. And then we recognized the platform was not doing good. So these cars were literally falling apart. And they asked me to fix this business. So I did that. Actually I did it. Took me a good 1 year. And then they tried to reorganize in a way that this business which I was running was downgraded to a lower level. And I said, no, that's not what I want. I have to look for something else.
Okay. And you found something else?
Yeah, this was very interesting. Then, and this is my second recommendation. I think it's good if you are known from your superiors or next levels. So you should have a kind of a network. So my point was, I looked around, and they looked for a new head for computer tomographs. This is one of the greatest businesses of Siemens. It's really cool. Technology, market share. I mean, the whole business is very nice. And I got within 1 week an interview with the CEO, the head of the business line, which was running also computer tomograph, and the CHRO. 3 days, they said, you will get that job. So I said, fine. And then I was going to Forchheim. This is the place, my first day, so to speak. And then I got a call from the board member, the CEO of this whole healthcare business, and said, where are you? And I said, no, in Forchheim, where I'm supposed to be. Well, why don't you finish your day, go home, and wait a while? I said, okay, that's very interesting. And then, okay, I did it and stay quiet and wait. And I waited for a week. I didn't get any notice. I didn't know what's going on. And then I got an invitation by the CEO of Siemens for whatever reason. So I met him. We had a nice chat. I went home and he said, stay at home for a while. Waited for another week. Was invited back again, and then he said, why don't you run the strategy for me, Siemens strategy? So now the story was the following. the board member from the healthcare division was going to the managing board of Siemens to get an approval for my placement. This was supposed to be a decision in the managing board of Siemens. And he said, I have a new head for my computer tomography business, Roland Busch. Then the other board member, so from Siemens executive board, said, no, he has to fix the strain business. Then another one came and said, oh, no, I have a great idea for him for Siemens Energy. And then the CEO said, if 3 guys are pulling on that guy, I think I have to get to know him because I have a placement to make, which was about strategy. So, this is how I ended up there.
All right. What did you do? I mean, very interesting. What did you do as head of corporate strategy?
The first thing was reading. I mean, Siemens is big. We have many business units, different markets. I mean, this is really different technologies. So it was really a lot of studying, and I helped the CEO and the managing board to the first step was reorganizing the regional setup. They were asking for an M&A deal book. So how can you make your M&A strategy better? I was working on one, which is still alive. And but I also proposed that at that time there was an industry sector which was just too big and too diverse, and some business were not really in the right focus. I proposed to put infrastructure and city sector together. It's mobility, grid, building technology, mobility, and this was done. And then the CEO who hired me as strategy head said, actually, you will be a board member of Siemens. And I said, great. But there are 2 alternatives, either the CTO or running this new sector. And he said, not that it's your choice, but what would you want? And I said, I would like to run the business. I said, okay, good idea, but there's only a problem because there's nobody in the company who can run the technology except you. So, I mean, I would have done that as well, but then I figured out by chance that he picked a person in the organization for this because he said it's great if Busch runs technology, and he picked another one for this sector. And my strong conviction was this was a complete wrong decision. So then I asked for, and I got to know who this person was, and then I asked for an urgent meeting with the CEO and told him what I believe, what kind of capabilities a person should have to run this sector. And I left it with my ideas.
Okay.
And then it took another day or 2, and then he said, I think you should run the sector.
All right.
And this.
All right. Very good.
My next step.
All right. And so can you maybe tell us a little bit of your, I guess, some highlights or some interesting parts of your time as a board member running this business, perhaps, and also other things?
Yeah, that was supposed to be the bad bank. So the investors were coming and asking, or were arguing that this is now, Siemens pulled a business together in order to sell it piece by piece. Mobility, building technology didn't make margins. Low voltage was too small and didn't make margins either. And we kept on really going behind each and every business, trying to fix it. We sold some, we acquired some businesses. And that was a very, very interesting exercise. At the beginning, everybody who was part of that sector, they said, oh shit, I mean, now we are part of this bad bank. Nobody wanted to be there. And you have a brain drain, you have people leaving. So we have to try to create an identity. So get the people and make them work and stay behind and make a turnaround. Mm-hmm. And this was, again, none of this business was really performing very well. And the first year we had a top management meeting, the people said, oh, why am I here? So, I mean, just didn't understand what the new sector should be and what's about. The second year was the toughest one because we really had a lot of losses. We couldn't deliver our high-speed trains. We had to write off 300 million. We had to invest in our low-voltage business because it was just the portfolio was running out. So this was the low. But from that time onward, we just made our budget quarter for quarter. We started picking up momentum. And this was the time when people were coming back because they said, okay, this is great. This is a company which our business lines, which seems to perform gradually, but kept catching up. And this was a great moment. Now, when you see that people are coming back, you can really get talents to your business because they want to be part of it. And which is number one, creating a kind of a culture, identity, but also a future where the people can align for. Yeah, and that what is smart infrastructure at Siemens is that what today is mobility, which is, I do believe, the best train and signaling company in the world is this business. Right. We still have our low voltage business, which does a great job.
Okay.
So it's part of Siemens today.
Okay.
Still.
All right. When did you become a deputy CEO? And do you still remember, was it a phone call? Did someone from the supervisory board?
Oh, well, this was not such a big deal, I have to say, because there was a time when I added then the technology function and so on. I took over strategy. And there was a time when obviously the supervisory board thought that it would be a good idea that sooner or later I would run the company. Mm-hmm. And in order to bridge the time and to prepare, so they gave me this title. This was not a big deal.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Was it a big deal becoming CEO? I suppose it was a very big deal.
Well, yes, it was. It was. The point was, when I became CEO, I was already almost 10 years in the managing board of Siemens. So I knew what's going on there. I knew how to deal with the supervisory board. So it was not really such a big step, except maybe two dimensions. One dimension was the interaction with the capital market. So every quarter you have to go on roadshow, you have to talk to the analysts and whatnot. And they ask you actually all the same question again and again. It's very interesting. And the second one was the exposure to politics. Mm-hmm. So I believe that on each level, if you climb the carrier in your life, then in each level you're building up kind of network. Mm-hmm. So when you are a normal board member of Siemens, for example, or any other DAX company, you're developing a network amongst your peers and to a certain level in politics. So you would maybe not reach minister level or chancellor level. But when you're CEO, then obviously you're networking then with other CEOs and you're stepping up into that political level. That was a kind of an interesting exercise, to say.
And do you still remember your first day or first week at CEO? Was it basically getting to know, politicians, key stakeholders?
Not in the first week. This takes normally a year when you're running through different cycles, different meetings, Davos, or getting on a plane with the chancellor for a trip or two. So this is where you start. So in the first year, it's where you're building up this kind of network, or you get into the CEO circles. The interesting thing was really our day one. We called it day one because at the same time when I was appointed it was not really my appointment as CEO. I consider the fiscal year because my appointment was the AGM in February, but I ran the business since October before. So, and this was for me my day one because from the day onward I had all the business under control. It was just not the title. So, but this was my day one, and this was also the very same day when Siemens was spun. We spun our Siemens Energy business. So it was a kind of a new chapter in the company. And this was very interesting to explain to the people what is now Siemens. Mm-hmm. Because if you're spinning out almost 20 billion business, and which is part of the legacy of Siemens, then some people were saying, what's left? And I said, well, hold on a minute. What do you mean what's left? This is a 60 billion company. This is not the leftover. This is the company. But these were the kind of questions. And to really put a kind of a a narrative for Siemens behind. That was, for me, a very interesting moment.
All right. Let me ask two questions. First of all, what does a CEO of Siemens do? And secondly, what does Siemens do?
Let me start with the second one.
All right.
So the second, what is Siemens doing? It's hard to explain because that's what we do is not in our name. It was very easy. This was a very interesting moment when we talked about spinning Siemens Energy. It was not clear what's the name of this company. And then we had a management meeting a couple of weeks later, and we revealed the name, Siemens Energy. And this was really, before that, the people were saying, okay, now I'm sold, I'm not part of the company anymore. Very interesting. The one part saying, I'm at the leftover, the other saying, oh, I'm sold. So nobody was happy. But when we released the name Siemens Energy, there was really a kind of momentum where the people said, okay, this is what we are. We are Siemens Energy, very simple. And the name is the program. For Siemens, it was different. So how to explain what Siemens does? And I have a couple of smart guys in my communication department. They came back and said, actually, it's very simple. We create technology to transform the everyday for everyone. Mm-hmm. Okay, what does that mean? Well, the point is, you have to look behind the curtain in order to see what Siemens does. Every car which passes by was eventually touched by Siemens technology in the design phase, in the production phase. Roughly 50% of all electrons which are reaching people were touched by Siemens technology. When you somewhere on this globe get a scan, MR scan, CT scan, the likelihood that you're ending up at a Siemens scanner is something between 40 and 50%. When you walk in New York, you cannot walk one block without passing by a building which is automated by Siemens technology. So therefore, it is technology at work which changes everybody's life, and it changes it. Basically, it touches the backbone of economies. It's industry, it's buildings, it's grids, it's energy system, it's mobility, it's healthcare. That is what Siemens, what we are doing.
Okay, very interesting.
What does our CEO do? Well, I mean, a lot of things, I guess. It's really a blend. This is maybe the most interesting, and I like my job. I love it because there's not one day which looks alike another one. When I look, for example, into my calendar for 2024, here comes the first problem. It's very much filled already. Supervisory board meetings, managing board meetings, strategy meetings, whatever you have. These are the standard things which you have to do. Then we have. I'm also leading not only the CEO function. I lead mobility still, and I have responsibility for China and United States. So I'm trying to get 3 times at least to each of these countries, maybe 4. And then you have basically. What I'm trying to do is I try not to let the organization manage my calendar. So I try to do it top down. So Alex is my chief of staff. We sit together and say, how much time do we really want to spend on customers, on technology, ecosystem partners, on my people, management team, politics. So I try to manage it because normally the headquarter gives you 365 reasons to stay in Munich. I don't want to do that. So and then you basically, what I do is I try. This is another learning. When you are the CEO of the company, you are the face of the company, and communicating and telling the people where to go, what's the direction, what you want to do. And we are in the midst of a tremendous transformation, and to take the people with me, finding the right words to explain what we do, which is sometimes hard. Transformation means that you don't do what you did in the past, to do something new. But very many people, they say, but we are so successful, why should I change? Innovator's dilemma, right. Christiansen. So therefore, this is something which is really a big part of my job. And I figure out that more and more that communication and taking these 310,000, 320,000 people with me is maybe one of the most important tasks.
Okay. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to lead Siemens?
Our strategy is very simply explained. We combine the real and the digital worlds. That's
Okay.
it.
Can you elaborate a bit more?
And we do that in order to really improve the world. When I'm saying we combine the real and digital world, the idea is that when you take software and leverage the value of hardware with it, then you can really bring completely new value using less resources, shorten cycle times, driving productivity. Some ideas. When we rolled out our software technology suite to BYD, do you know BYD, the Chinese company? They were able to reduce their development time for new products, for new cars, from 55 months to 36. So this is the power of software, of simulation. When you build a digital twin of your car and your production lines first before you make it in real. You can shorten the cycle time substantially. You can save energy. When we built a new plant in China, we built it twice. We built it first fully digital, the products, the building, the line, even the people. We simulated everything, and not before that we started sending the excavation machines and digged out. And we were able to shorten the building time by 1 year, basically. We have 20% higher space productivity, 20% higher energy efficiency, much more flexible in manufacturing. And now, since the digital twin is alive, the plant manufacturer can simulate investing in a new robot, putting AGVs on the ground, breaking up lines, simulate it. And when he loves it, and when he's happy with it, then doing that. That means you stop the line maybe for a couple of days and not for a couple of weeks. When we can predict which door of a train in a metro is failing with a lead time of 5 to 7 days and why. So basically with that information you can reach 100% availability of your assets in the field. So that's basically a couple of examples. What's the power of combining the real and the digital world.
Quite fascinating. What we teach our students are, among others, two things. First of all, businesses do not occur in a vacuum. They're embedded in their external environment. And secondly, it sometimes is nevertheless helpful to understand kind of the strength of a company, the core competencies. So 2 questions. First of all, and without indulging in party politics, but what would a healthy industrial environment in Germany look like, especially for Siemens, but in general? And secondly, what are the strengths, the core competencies of your company?
So this is very much linked. And the short answer is innovation. So I do believe coming from an environment, German environment, it would be an environment which is stimulating innovation. Germany has 80 plus million people, and we are now number 3 in this third largest economy in the world. We don't have gas, we don't have oil, we don't have any kind of resources. It is just the people and the innovation strengths. The big companies, the medium-sized companies, the hidden champions. This makes 80 million people country so rich. It's all about innovation. If you think a little bit deeper, it's not innovation of individual companies. Yes, it is. I mean, we have a couple of great companies also in that region, the Trumpfs with the laser technology and you name it, or call it the OEMs, the car manufacturers. But it's even more the ecosystems behind. It's the car makers and the ZFs and Boschs and Continentals sitting behind, and then the Dürrs and you like it, or Trumpfs, which are providing technology. These ecosystems are so powerful. You have the same for medical technology, for automotive, for chemicals, pharmaceuticals. And again, machine tools and machine builders are an environment on its own. This makes Germany so strong. The environment should really support innovation, which means we need, first and foremost, a good education. And it starts in school. Education, very important. Along with the education comes a very smart and intelligent immigration policy. We need the best talents in the world, and we need them at work. We need a proper infrastructure, logistics, communication, energy. Without that, you will not have a prospering industry. And you need a kind of a smart way of the government subsidizing and supporting innovation. what I'm saying here is they should not support and subsidize the old technologies where we used to be strong, but those where we want to be strong. It's about the future. So that would be the environment. And again, one last thing. And this is, I repeat it again and again, I think it's very hard to understand. We have to transform our ecosystem, which we know, which I described to you, from the old way, how these systems run, into the new way. What is the old way? The old way is tier 3, delivers to tier 2, creates some value, delivers to tier 1, creates some value, delivers to an OEM, and they produce products for the end customers. The new ecosystems are platform-based ecosystem around technology. You have a technology and you have a multi-sided supply-demand kind of ecosystem. And the more partners you add, the stronger this platform is. All the big companies in the world are running one way or the other a platform business of that type. This is a transformative way of running ecosystems. If we don't learn it, we will have a problem. So that's the challenge of the industry itself. And now you've got already the answer from the second question. Siemens, our strength is definitively technology and innovation. We did it over the last 176 years. We transformed the company all over again. We do it again now with the highest speed because digitalization changes everything, including AI and the like. And we are building basically a platform, we call it Siemens Accelerator, which is a technology stack, an ecosystem in a marketplace, in order to really go for this kind of ecosystem play. So therefore, and it's about innovation. We are spending 8% of our revenue in R&D, which is much, much more than any other of our competitors in absolute and relative terms, and we keep on going.
All right, very good. I know you're short on time, so to speak, so I would like to maybe follow up with a few quick personal questions before handing it over to the students. So can you maybe reveal what type of music you like to listen to?
I'm stuck in the 80s. Huh? Toto, Barclay James Harvest. Exactly.
All right. What type of cuisine do you like? Any food?
I mean, I like Asian food, to be very honest, and I'm tuned for very protein-rich, low-carb food.
Okay, very healthy. What type of movies do you watch if you do have time?
I don't really watch movies too much, to be very honest.
Okay, and any type of vacations you particularly like? Are you more the active person, the relaxed beach, warm?
I'm not the beach person.
Okay.
I'm normally the person who does a blend of sports and reading and enjoying.
Okay.
Sometimes also study trips, but it's more about sports and relaxing and reading.
Okay, and that leads me to the book question. So what type of books do you like to read? What type of authors? Do you have any recommendations for us?
So this was very interesting. When I can read only during vacations. I'm reading really stuff which is not business-like, because this organization gives me so much to read that I can spend 24 hours on reading, I tell you. So and then I was reading everything. Some criminal stuff and new business books and the like. And I found it at a certain point a little bit boring. And then somebody told me, did you ever run through this list of the 100 books everybody has to read before dying? And you will, when you Google around, you find many of these 100 books lists. What I recommend is the list from the Die Zeit, the German newspaper. Some of them are, by the way, including the Bible, for example, some not, depending on what kind of things they do. But if you go through that list and just pick one and you read one, I mean, Das Decamerone or Black and White, Stendhal or Utopia, you will figure out why these books are standing on that list for the last 50, 100, or even couple of 100 years. This is really great reading. So I love that. But here comes my recommendation. I studied physics, and during one of my breakfast meetings with my wife, we talked. This was pre-corona. We talked about a viral and a bacterial infection. And I said, so what's the big difference? Oh, these are monocells. Okay, but what's the difference then? And then we were talking, and I figured out that what the atom is for physics, a cell is for biology. But I didn't have a clue about cells. Then I started reading. I tell you, this is mind-blowing, studying cells. And here comes the book recommendation. David Goodsell's The Machinery of Life, or in German, Wie Zellen funktionieren. It's not thick, but it's mind-blowing. You learn a lot about cells.
All right. I see a lot of people are writing it down, so
David Goodsell.
Happy reading to you. Yeah. Dr. Busch, please allow me one last question before we hand it over to the students. When you look back at what you've accomplished in a few decades, what type of legacy do you want to leave behind?
I would love to leave behind a fast-growing company, which is a fast-growing, profitable company, which is making contribution to societies, which is in all dimensions, in particular in education and training of people, which is about using less resources and creating value for our customers, making stay relevant. And in that context, if I can accomplish that, what I said before, that we execute the strategy of combining the real and digital worlds with our Siemens Accelerator platform, which is a platform which is basically scaling technologies and ecosystems faster, then I did a good job.
All right. Well, we wish you the very best for it.
Thank you.
And thank you for the conversation.
Hello, Felix Appel here from TUM. I have a question for you. As you have like a physics background, what would you say has been like the positive side and the negative sides compared to a normal business CEO careers in their studies?
Based on physics, okay. I think about the negative one. The positive one is, but this is the context of Siemens, and for the last, I think, 20 years, I'm the first CEO which has a technological background. Before that was economics or law or whatever. And people give me a strong feedback that this really makes a big difference. Why? Because I'm genuinely interested in technology. I think I can have a semi-intelligent dialogue on any kind of technology in our company, which people appreciate. So it's really getting this, or igniting the passion for technology in a way which was not done before. That makes a huge difference. And I can get the feedback from customers, from our people, from ecosystem partners, makes a big difference. Is there any drawback? Actually, not in running a technology company. I could have been also engineer, but physics is quite good.
Hi, my name is Vincent Fischer from TUM. And my question is, Siemens is still located in Germany. And what do you think about the location in Germany? Do you think it's still good? How will it be in the future? And yeah, just in general. Thank you.
Yeah, I get this question quite often. And many people are saying Germany is deindustrializing, high energy prices and whatnot. We are running on substance on our infrastructure. And look at the trains. This is all infrastructure related. Actually, our trains, they run in other places where we make the service and where the infrastructure is good. They run 24/7. I tell you. No, but really, I'm serious. I do believe that we are at a tipping point. We have to get a couple of things right. And very often there's a meeting with the chancellor but also Minister of Economy or Finance, and when the chancellor gets a couple of CEOs together, he's asking for advice what you should do. I feel a little bit pity for him, and because very often each company, each CEO comes with a laundry list. This is what I need in terms of subsidies or whatnot. My strategy was different. I was saying, I have just one wish, just support the innovative strengths of Germany, full stop. Then he was asking, yeah, good idea, how? And I came to exactly these points. It's about people, education and training. It's about a proper infrastructure. It's about a proper immigration. And it's about giving subsidies to industries which you want to have in the future, which you can defend in the future. Eventually, not energy-intensive industries. You have to think, you have to let go when you cannot defend and invest where you can. So I do believe in the innovative strengths of the people which we have. It's amazing. It's amazing how many good people we have. Also on, by the way, on AI or generative AI. If we get these elements straight, I don't worry about Germany, but it's a pivoting moment, so to speak. So we have to get things right. And it hurts, because when I'm saying here, a transformation means you have winners and losers, and that you have to go through.
Yeah, hello, my name is Arafa Chemaswet. My question is about innovation metrics. What do you think are other practical measures or metrics of innovation apart from the classical return of research and development investment and IP generated?
Well, big question. I do believe you have to think about what are the core technologies. What are they, and this is how we are running our innovation departments. We have also still an R&D department. We make advanced research, and we identified, I think, 11 or 12 what we call company core technologies. Amongst them is generative AI or AI. It's software architecture. It's additive manufacturing. It's power electronics. It's ASICs. It's UX, so user interface, how you interact with machines. It's I mean, a couple of them. And on these 10 or 11 technology fields, we are orientating our budget. We are investing. The cybersecurity is another one, and they are running really across all businesses. Some for all of them, some for only a part of it. And to strengthen our knowledge and to allocate capital in that direction, and then driving innovation on these fields in a kind of a platform manner that we are really putting this technology behind. That's, I think, the magic what you should do.
Okay. Hi, my name is Antonia Lutz from Hochschule Heilbronn. My question is, what was your biggest challenge that you had faced while in this position at Siemens? And how did you manage or overcome that challenge?
I do believe my biggest challenge is number one, obviously, to get the right people on board. I mean, this whole thing is really about people. If you have a clear strategy and you communicate it properly and get the right people, let it go. This is basically it. Because I do believe when the people understood what they want, we call it empowerment and growth mindset. These are the two elements. The biggest challenge for me is finding these people and getting really not only the people's minds, but also the people's guts behind our future strategy, so that they are really all in. It's transformative, because again, people think we are so good, why do we have to change? Bringing them into a change mode, in a positive one, in a mode that they want to learn, they make mistakes and learn from them. This is the biggest challenge I have, which is hard, because I cannot reach 320,000 people easily, and not only in their minds, but also in their guts. It's hard to reach my 25,000 leaders in the company. It's really difficult. I can reach 50, my core leadership team, maybe 100, but 25,000 is very difficult. And how did I overcome? I didn't. I'm in the middle of it. So we are still working on it. And here a very strong, very good communication department helps. I have a small team which works dedicated for me. And this is key for me. So.
My name is Zain Zayoun. I'm from TUM. I want to thank you for this interview. My question lies that you have mentioned before that the middle-sized companies in Germany are somehow hidden champs. How does Siemens see itself helping factories and these middle-sized companies, maybe in the adoption of the technologies and in their digital transformation? Thank you.
So for me, these companies are crucial. They are, to be very honest, the backbone of Germany's economy. And there are also some hidden champions. Some are maybe even visible champions, but they carry a big chunk, not only of the workforce in Germany, but also of the technology. I consider them more and more as being part of our ecosystem, because wherever you go, machine builders, they're everywhere, and they are part of our technology and vice versa. So we're bringing automation to these companies, also digitalization. The most critical point, what I see is, there are two actually. One is the regulations coming from Europe, that kills small and medium-sized enterprises. I tell you, in order to fulfill the regulations, reporting regulations, Siemens is going to invest in 2024 something like 20 million, maybe 25. Small companies have no chance. I mean, okay, we are bigger in size, but still, it just kills them. And the second one is acquisition of IT technologies or IoT technologies. Sometimes these companies, their IT department fits in the first row here, and they have no chance to really roll out generative AI technologies, new IoT technologies. This is the reason why I'm so strong on building a platform, which makes it easy to use and easy to deploy for any company, also small companies. In an open platform, so they can use their legacy system and hook it under ours. And that's, for me, the big transformation. And every single small and medium-sized company has to do that transformation. Otherwise, they will not keep up with the speed of change and development, which they have to. I can give you countless examples.
Hi, my name is Robinson. I had one question. During your growth in your career, I'm sure there are differences that existed between what you thought was right and what your superiors thought was right. So how did you manage those conflicts and those differences?
What was right in short or mid?
No, whichever position you held,
Yeah.
I'm sure there were differences between maybe what you thought was the right path to take,
Yes.
and maybe what your superiors thought.
Superior,
maybe.
okay.
Yes.
Well, I think the very important point about this, it's not only about superiors. It's about getting a diverse team around you and try to get as many different aspects on things you want to drive and you want to change, to be damn sure that you go in the right direction. You never get it always right. And this is the second point. You have to be able to adjust and to pivot. Also say, oh, this was a wrong way. Let's do another one. Not too early, but also not too late. But the key is try to get really an open-minded and a speak-up culture around you in order to really get all this information from different perspectives. When you have a discrepancy with your boss, if it's about content, there's a very simple thing. And this was my conviction throughout my career. If my boss says, this is the right direction, I have a different opinion, we talked through it, he listened, and he says, I still believe this is the right direction, then I follow. And I'm all in. If not, I have to leave, because otherwise it's illoyalty. The worst thing what you want to have is passive resistant. This kills. And I had recently a management meeting in this transformation when I said, we can discuss everything. Speak up, and I will listen. And very often I also follow other perspectives if I'm convinced. But if we come to conclusion and we execute, then I expect everybody in the room to stand fully behind and to go for it. And if somebody says, I don't, it's fine. But passive resistance, pretending that they follow, but they don't, kills a company and also the culture. So therefore, and I was still loyal to that point in time. But I have to make a choice.
My name is Alina Henriksen from TUM, and I'm curious about how would you describe yourself as a student as you were in our age? So what are 3 words that you would use to describe yourself when you were in your 20s?
Yeah, I started with the school. When I was at school, I was one of those scholars who just managed to go through this thing. I mean, because I was maybe 6 or 7 times a day on doing sports. I did decathlon and handball and volleyball and you name it. So I just said, okay, school has to be done, and I managed somehow. It completely changed when I started studying physics. I was really passionate about it, and I was one of those who was going to the classrooms whenever the professor was good. The other was I skipped. I was really trying to understand deeply what the physics is about. I got a stipendium for books, so I had a bunch of books and studied very well. And also in Grenoble when I was there, this was just learning and studying. And so I was really passionate about my study. So this is maybe my description.
Hello, my name is Levin too, and my question for you is, what is Siemens' long-term vision for sustainability? And can you share some specific initiatives the company is undertaking to reduce its environmental impact? So, I mean, our long-term vision is number one, to make our own contribution on sustainability for our company, scope 1, 2, and 3, but in particular as a business. So if you want scope 3 downstream, because this is the biggest impact we can generate. We are not an energy intensive company. Siemens' global footprint is 500,000 tons per annum, scope 1 and 2. Scope 3 upstream is 15 million tons, so 500,000, 15 million. Our scope 3 downstream is hundreds of millions. So what we can do in terms of saving any kind of resources downstream at customers. So if I would be free to allocate capital, guess what I would do? I would put more money in innovation and driving our technology to the market. Yet we still have to make our own commitment. So we reduced our carbon footprint by half between 19 and 2021. We spent another 600 million to get our 500,000 tons down to, let's say, almost zero, maybe 10% left or 5% left, which is completely insane, because 600 million euros, if I would spend in not cutting wood in Brazil, would have much higher contribution. But still, I have to walk the talk. But we believe that we can do quite a bit in downstream. And this is any kind of energy efficiency, driving electrification in the market. Whatever you electrify, you can power by renewables, storage, hydrogen, whatever you name it. There's one single element which we are ramping up, but I don't have a clue how it runs, which is recycling, because recycling is basically running an industry which was built in a way that you say you dig out stuff, you manufacture something, pre-products, products, you make a product, you use it, and you landfill it, and run this optimized system, which is running one-way reverse. And nobody has a clue how that goes. And I do believe this is a tremendous opportunity to recycle for energy efficiency reasons, but also for resources which you have a hard time to get, like lithium.
Hi, I am Makundu Kwetod. I know Siemens is a major stakeholder in the West African power sector, most especially in Nigeria. Out of curiosity, I just wanted to know, what are the certain challenges you're facing in this project? And do you have a feasible completion date for this project itself?
So part of that is Siemens Energy. If it's power generation, if it comes to the grid, high voltage grids too, medium voltage grid, it's Siemens, which we're doing there. Challenges, I think it's more the environment, the stability of a country, the problem of still being compliant in a country, which is maybe not fully compliant in all aspects, and again the stability in the country, but also the social aspects. For example, we have been asked to roll out a metering system in Nigeria. Try to roll out meters in societies where the people just get power for free, and now you install a meter and they have to pay for it.
I mean, if you want to install it, you're better coming with this little army behind you. Otherwise, you have a real problem. So these are the challenges, I would say. This is the reason why we refuse to install it, because it's just insane. So that's maybe the biggest challenge. But if the system stays stable, meaning you know that you're investing a lot, you're bringing a lot of capital into it and manpower, and if you get a return because it's a stable system, then I think the country will prosper.
Hello, my name is Didar Areshev, and I would like to ask you a question regarding decisions. So being a CEO, it means that you have making a lot of decisions. Do you have any decision you made, you don't like it, but you still will not regret doing it?
Exiting Russia. No, very serious. This is a 150 years business. Very strong business of ours. I wrote off 4 billion order backlog. Bottom line impact on my balance sheet, 1.8 billion, 5,500 people working there. They were not engaged in the war. They never wanted to have it. And to take that decision, it's a hard decision, but it was without any alternative, and would do it all over again.
Hello, I'm Li Guanzhang. I'm from China, and I'm studying at TUM. So you mentioned that you like Chinese food and mentality. What is it that you like about Chinese mentality? And also, what are the main differences between their management methodologies and strategies of Chinese prominent companies and the German ones? Thank you.
Oh, so I mean, what I like, this is in China. When I was managing the business there, I had the impression that these people they work hard, and if you can be more successful, they work even harder. So the whole thing, the concept of having a 4-day work week is completely off. So and if you the one thing, the second one is, I do believe that Chinese have this kind of entrepreneur DNA. If you look around Asia and you look at not China, but Singapore, Hong Kong, other places, Malaysia, most of the top entrepreneurs have Chinese roots. So it's a kind of the DNA to do business. I like the pragmatism. So that means in Germany, if you make an innovation, you think very long about it, make it perfect. In China, you just get going. And if it's not working, then pivot again, and then you get it right. I mean, there are arguments for both. I mean, disruptive innovations, you might not get that way. But if you want to have, based on a certain foundation, innovate fast and bring it to the market, a product to the market, it's perfect. I like that. But I like also the confidence the people have. So I still tell my organization, you can relieve a lot of power if you get more decision responsibility to China. We still control our product management out of the headquarters. We don't allocate too much R&D. So let our Chinese organization go. As I did when I was in China, we really released so much power and passion for the business. It was amazing. And the other one, what I like is this Confucius kind of thing. So the family, the importance of the family or your surroundings, your friends around you, which you can recognize that it's still a kind of a way how this society holds together and works. So, yeah, that's great.
Hello, Antonia Lutz from Hochschule Heilbronn. What are your future plans, your future goals, like personal or business goals? Business
goals is making our guidance for 2024, which is short term. If we go to midterm, I want to grow. This company has meanwhile a very high conversion rate. That means our gross margin is quite high. Whenever we grow top line, you will see it bottom line. We delivered 15% growth in our core businesses and 10 billion free cash flow. So in 23. My target is to drive for higher growth, which is, I shouldn't say that in a capital market day, but definitely it's double digit.
We have the potential to do that, even if our markets are not growing that fast. Organically, I mean, but also add-on would be inorganic growth and drive the company in the direction with the strategy I was talking about. My personal goals are, can you imagine, quite linked to the business goals. I have to say that the company determines quite a bit of my life. There's a reason why I have to share that as well. My concept is not work-life balance. I call it work-life integration, which makes a big difference. Yet if you go for that, sort it out with your most important person in your life before, because it has certain consequences. But if you get it right, it's good. So, and my personal goals are first and foremost, again, stay healthy. This is what I always try. I'm exercising 6 times a week. Get up at 6 o'clock. You see me in the gym, 6:30 maybe. 6 days a week. Try to stay healthy and keep on going. It's a marathon.
Thank you very much for the very open and entertaining Q&A session, for your wonderful visit.